chosen ones, you remember the precise moment, do you not? That singular, jarring instant when the truth, sharp and metallic, cut through the fabricated calm of your existence. It wasn't merely information. It was a physical blow, a sudden, brutal invasion delivered not by an unknown assailant, but by a face you had trusted implicitly, a voice whose cadence you knew better than your own heartbeat. That recognition, the dawning horror that the hand extending the poisoned chalice was one you had clasped in camaraderie, triggered a response far deeper than mere emotional shock. Your body, the very vessel of your being, registered this as an existential catastrophe, an internal earthquake that shook you to your core before your conscious mind could even begin to process the betrayal. The initial shock hit like a silent explosion, a concussive force that reverberated through every nerve ending. Immediately, an unyielding vice clamped down on your chest, a crushing pressure that squeezed the air from your lungs, leaving you gasping for breath you could not fully draw. It wasn't an asthma attack or a sudden panic. It was a visceral reaction to the profound violation of your energetic field, a defensive contraction of your entire being. Your heart, startled and bewildered, began to hammer against your ribs, a frantic, irregular rhythm that felt less like a steady pulse and more like a trapped bird beating its wings against a cage. A cold, leaden weight settled deep within your sternum, a physical manifestation of dread that seemed to displace your vital organs, leaving an empty, aching cavity in its wake. This wasn't merely figurative language. It was the raw, undeniable somatic reality of your body screaming, registering the unbearable truth before your intellect had caught up. As the physical pressure mounted, a dense, suffocating brain fog descended, thick and impenetrable. Your thoughts, once clear and organized, scattered like dust motes in a sudden gale, unable to coalesce into anything coherent. It felt as though a vital circuit breaker had tripped, plunging your mind into a disorienting haze. Words, simple words, seemed to vanish from your grasp, replaced by a buzzing static that filled your skull, making it impossible to articulate the seismic shift occurring within. The world around you, previously sharp and defined, blurred at the edges, colors seeming to flatten, sounds muffled as if heard through thick water. This wasn't just confusion, it was a profound cognitive disjunction. Your brain struggling to reconcile the impossible reality of the betrayal with the deep-seated expectation of safety and trust you had placed in the familiar face, now revealed as an architect of your pain. The familiar pathways of logical thought dissolved, leaving you adrift in a sea of sensory overload and mental paralysis. Concurrently, a sickening lurch seized your stomach, a visceral twist that felt like your insides were knotting into an impossible Gordian knot. Nausea rose, sharp and acrid, threatening to overwhelm you. It was a primal gut reaction, the ancient reptilian brain signaling profound danger, a deep-seated rejection of the toxic input you had just received. This wasn't merely psychological distress. It was the body attempting to expel the unbearable truth, a deep cellular response to being contaminated by deceit. Your limbs, once grounded and reliable, suddenly felt detached, heavy yet strangely insubstantial. A pervasive weakness flooded your muscles, making standing feel like a monumental effort, sitting like an impossibility. Your legs might have trembled uncontrollably, or perhaps they felt numb, disconnected from the earth beneath you, as if you were hovering just inches above reality, unmoored and adrift. This profound physical disruption was your body's instinctive response to a system breach of the highest order. It was the biological alarm blaring, not because of an external threat you could flee or fight, but because the threat originated from within your perceived circle of safety, from someone you had unconsciously designated as protector, not predator. The betrayal by a familiar face dismantles the very foundations of trust upon which your nervous system builds its sense of security. Your body doesn't just register the psychological wound, it registers the catastrophic collapse of its internal map of safety, triggering a cascade of physiological responses designed for acute, immediate survival that are now misfiring in the face of an insidious relational wound. Every cell, every fiber of your being entered a state of heightened alert and simultaneous shutdown, an impossible paradox of hypervigilance and incapacitation. The experience was not an abstract concept. It was a palpable, undeniable series of sensations that rendered you momentarily incapacitated, a living testament to the deep interconnectedness of mind, body, and spirit. You may have felt an intense wave of heat flush through you, or a sudden, bone-chilling cold that seemed to originate from your core, regardless of the ambient temperature. Your skin might have prickled, your scalp tingled, as if every hair stood on end, registering the profound shift in the energetic environment around you. It was a full-body download of catastrophic information, bypassing the usual filters of the conscious mind and plunging directly into the ancient, reactive centers of your being. This was the somatic shock, the immediate, overwhelming physical reality of being betrayed by a familiar face, a raw, unfiltered testament to the profound, energetic violation that had just occurred. You stood or sat in that moment, outwardly perhaps calm, but internally a tempest raged. The world continued its indifferent spin, yet your personal universe had shattered, taking with it your equilibrium, your sense of groundedness, and your very capacity for simple physical ease. Every breath became a conscious effort, every beat of your heart a testament to an impossible struggle. The brain fog wasn't just a nuisance, it was a protective mechanism, a merciful veil drawn over a reality too stark to face head-on, an attempt by your overwhelmed system to buy precious seconds, perhaps even minutes, before the full weight of the revelation could be cognitively processed. Your body, the ultimate truth-teller, bore witness to the profound treachery, expressing in aches, pressures, and disorientation what words could never fully convey. This was the beginning of the shift, the first undeniable physical tremor of a deeper transformation underway. There is a particular kind of silence that settles in the soul when you finally acknowledge the empty chair. Not empty because someone departed, leaving behind a tangible void of shared memories and a future brutally severed. No, this silence is far more insidious, a deeper, more unsettling vacuum. It is the chilling realization that the chair was, in fact, always empty. The presence you perceived, the love you invested, the trust you offered, the entire edifice of connection you painstakingly built brick by brick, was founded not on solid ground, but on a mirage, a projection, an elaborate construct of your own hopeful heart. This is the grief of the illusion, a torment unique in its capacity to disorient and dismantle. It is not the sorrow of what was lost, but the devastation of what never truly existed in the first place, except within the sacred confines of your own perception. The human spirit is remarkably resilient, capable of enduring the most brutal forms of bereavement when the loss is clear, defined, and mourned by a collective understanding. We have rituals for death, for separation, for the end of tangible things. But where are the ceremonies for the death of a dream that masqueraded as reality, for the phantom limb of a relationship that was never genuinely whole? This particular sorrow leaves you adrift, grappling with an existential ache that few can comprehend. You mourn not just a person, but an entire storyline, a tapestry of moments that now feel tainted, recontextualized into a cruel trick of the light. The intimate whispers, the shared laughter, the promises made under star-dusted skies, they all echo back hollow, reverberating with the agonizing truth that you were interacting with a mirror, a curated performance, or perhaps nothing more than the most potent version of your own yearning. This is why the physical body feels the shockwaves so profoundly. Every cell remembers the perceived safety, the comfort, the assumed reciprocal energy exchange. Your nervous system was attuned to a frequency that you believed was shared, only to discover it was a solitary broadcast. The betrayal isn't just emotional or mental, it's cellular. It's a primal scream from every fiber of your being that feels its foundational trust ripped asunder. The body, in its profound intelligence, begins to shed the energetic residue of that illusion, and this is where the intense, sometimes bewildering, physical shifts manifest. It's a literal purging, a systemic recalibration, a dismantling of the old energetic architecture that housed the lie. This process is gritty, it is uncomfortable, and it is entirely necessary. To grieve an illusion is to perform a profound spiritual surgery upon yourself. You are cutting away not just a relationship, but a piece of your own past, reevaluating memories, questioning your judgment, and often doubting the very bedrock of your discernment. This is not a process for the faint of heart. It demands an unflinching gaze into the abyss of what you allowed yourself to believe, into the shadows where your own desires may have blinded you to the stark reality. The pain is not simply heartbreak, it is a profound identity crisis. Who were you in that relationship? Who are you now, stripped bare of that false construct? The emptiness of that chair is a stark reminder of the space you mistakenly filled with another, a space that was meant to be reclaimed, repurposed for your own genuine truth. Society offers little solace for this specific brand of devastation. You cannot point to a grave, cannot mark an anniversary of a tangible ending, for how do you mourn something that never truly lived? This isolation deepens the wound, forcing you into a solitary confinement with your grief. You find yourself explaining, perhaps even justifying, a sorrow that others struggle to validate because the object of your mourning was, to them, simply an absent figure, not the architect of a breathtaking deception. This lack of external validation often leads to a self-doubt that can become another layer of suffering, adding insult to injury. Were you foolish? Were you naive? Was it all just in your head? These insidious questions become tormentors, whispering doubts into the quiet chambers of your heart. But it is precisely in this solitary, gritty processing that true alchemy occurs. This grief, as devastating as it feels, is a forge. It burns away the vestiges of your attachment to falsehood, clearing the path for an unshakable connection to genuine reality, to authentic self-love, and to truly reciprocal relationships. The empty chair, in its stark honesty, forces you to confront the deepest parts of yourself that sought to fill that void, or that projected an ideal onto another. It strips away the comforting lies and leaves you with the raw, uncompromising truth of your own being. This is where your true strength lies, not in avoiding the pain, but in choosing to sit with the desolation, to dissect the illusion, and to integrate the harsh lessons it delivers. The courage it takes to mourn an illusion is immense. It requires you to acknowledge your own vulnerability, your own capacity for profound connection, even when that connection was reciprocated only by a ghost. It demands that you honor the earnestness of your own heart, even as you dismantle the faulty structure it helped to build. This grief is not a weakness. It is a testament to the depth of your capacity to love, to trust, and to believe. And now, it becomes the crucible for your discernment, refining your inner compass so that you may never again mistake a shadow for substance. The physical body, in its wisdom, initiates a deep cleanse, a purification of the energetic field that can no longer house such fundamental misalignments. This shift, while painful, is the ultimate act of liberation, clearing the path for a future built on unwavering truth, starting with the truth you finally reclaim within yourself. There is a deep-seated, often unconscious yearning within each of us for peace, a relentless desire to shed the heavy cloak of resentment and anger, to liberate ourselves from the shackles of past hurts. This primal pull towards light, towards release, is a noble instinct, one often celebrated and encouraged across spiritual traditions. Yet, in our haste to embrace this release, we sometimes fall prey to a subtle, insidious trap: premature forgiveness. It is a concept misunderstood, often misapplied, and one that, when executed without the foundational pillar of self-preservation, becomes not a balm for the soul, but a spiritual poison. Consider the landscape of your inner world, the sacred ground of your being. When an offense occurs, when a boundary is breached, a wound is inflicted upon this sacred space. Your energetic field registers the intrusion, your soul cries out in protest, and your inner child recoils in pain. To then, in an immediate, often performative gesture, declare "I forgive you," without first tending to that gaping wound, without truly processing the violation, is akin to painting over a festering infection. It creates a false sense of resolution, a superficial peace that serves only to deepen the underlying spiritual injury. This rushing to forgive is often born from a misconception that holding onto anger or pain is inherently unspiritual, a sign of weakness or a failure to ascend. It is reinforced by societal pressures, by well-meaning but ill-informed advice, and sometimes by deeply ingrained patterns of people-pleasing or a fear of confrontation. You are told to let it go, to rise above it, to be the bigger person, and in your earnest desire to fulfill these noble directives, you inadvertently betray your own sacred self. The profound danger lies precisely in this act of self-betrayal, for when you hastily grant forgiveness without establishing robust, non-negotiable boundaries, you leave the gates of your sacred inner garden wide open. You implicitly signal that the violation was not severe enough to warrant true introspection from the transgressor, or worse, that your personal sovereignty is negotiable. Boundaries are not walls built to exclude love or connection. They are clear, luminous fences that define your energetic perimeter, protecting the integrity of your spirit. They are declarations of self-worth, a recognition of your inherent value, and a vital act of spiritual discernment. Without these boundaries firmly in place, premature forgiveness becomes an invitation for further transgression, an unspoken permission slip for repeated disrespect, and a silent agreement to tolerate patterns that diminish your light. Imagine the energetic consequence. You become a porous vessel, constantly leaking vital life force as you absorb the unacknowledged trauma and unresolved karmic debris of others. This is not generosity, this is spiritual hemorrhage. True forgiveness, authentic release, can only blossom from a place of strength, clarity, and self-respect. It is an internal alchemy that occurs asterisk after asterisk. The truth of the offense has been acknowledged. Asterisk after asterisk, the anger and grief have been felt, and crucially, asterisk after asterisk, you have fortified your defenses. To forgive prematurely is to short-circuit this essential process, preventing the soul from fully grieving, from learning the vital lessons embedded within the pain, and from reclaiming its power. It leads not to liberation, but to an accumulation of resentment that festers beneath the surface, slowly poisoning your energetic field. This hidden resentment, this unacknowledged hurt, does not disappear simply because you uttered the words, "I forgive you." Instead, it morphs, becoming a low-grade energetic drain, a constant background hum of discomfort that erodes your vitality and obscures your intuition. For the chosen ones, those whose spiritual senses are acutely attuned, this energetic corruption is particularly perilous. Your mission, your purpose, demands a pristine, unburdened energetic vessel. When you practice premature forgiveness, you cling to invisible energetic cords, tethering yourself to the very dynamics that seek to deplete you. You teach others, and more importantly, you teach your own subconscious, that your personal sovereignty is secondary to a superficial peace. This creates a dangerous precedent, reinforcing patterns of self-sacrifice that ultimately hinder your ascent and derail your highest timeline. It is not an act of kindness to yourself, nor is it a genuine path to spiritual freedom. Instead, it creates a cycle where you are constantly giving away your power, attempting to fix or absorb the transgressions of others without requiring any reciprocal recognition or respect. The gritty truth is that sometimes forgiveness is a long, arduous journey, not a singular destination. It may involve fierce self-advocacy, uncomfortable confrontations, and the painful recognition that certain relationships, certain dynamics, can no longer serve your highest good. To rush this process, to force a forgiveness that your soul is not ready to grant, is to deny your own truth. It is to silence the wise, protective voice within you that screams for justice, for recognition, for an honoring of your pain. This denial is deeply spiritually dangerous because it severs your connection to your authentic self, the very essence of your divine spark. It suggests that your feelings, your wounds, and your need for protection are secondary to the comfort or approval of others. Moreover, premature forgiveness, particularly when boundaries are absent, blurs the lines of personal responsibility. It removes the impetus for the transgressor to truly understand the impact of their actions, to genuinely atone, or to evolve their own behavior. By absorbing their spiritual debt, you prevent them from facing the natural consequences of their choices, thereby inhibiting their own spiritual growth as well. This is not compassion. It is an unwitting perpetuation of harmful cycles. Your spiritual path demands clarity, integrity, and a fierce commitment to your own truth. It requires you to distinguish between an intellectual understanding that someone acted from their own wounds and an emotional, energetic granting of full pardon without any guarantees of changed behavior or a firm establishment of your protective space. It is entirely possible, and often necessary, to release the desire for revenge and the burden of anger, without reopening the door to repeated harm, without abandoning your boundaries, and without sacrificing your sacred self on the altar of a false peace. True forgiveness, when it ripens organically from a place of empowered self-respect, is a profound act of liberation. But it can only truly set you free when it is earned, not hastily given, and when it is accompanied by the unwavering conviction that your boundaries are sacred, non-negotiable lines drawn in the energetic sand. Your integrity, your sovereignty, is paramount, and it must be fiercely protected. The ground beneath you may feel different now, a subtle tremor not of fear, but of recalibration. You're sensing the structural shifts, not just within your soul, but within the very fabric of your external reality, and yes, most profoundly within your physical vessel. For so long, you, the chosen ones, have been surrounded by an intricate, sometimes bewildering, web of relationships. Many of these connections, especially those that felt like foundational pillars, have been revealed for what they truly were: temporary scaffolding. Picture a magnificent edifice under construction, its true beauty obscured by a lattice of metal poles, wooden planks, and protective netting. This scaffolding isn't inherently bad. It serves a crucial purpose during the building phase. It provides external support, a framework for workers to ascend, to chip away at raw stone, to lay brick, to solder beams, to paint, to refine. It allows for the intricate work of creation to unfold without the nascent structure collapsing under its own weight or the forces of nature. For years, perhaps decades, many individuals in your life, friends, family members, romantic partners, colleagues, functioned as this very scaffolding. They provided a temporary framework around you, sometimes supporting you in ways you genuinely needed at the time, sometimes pushing against you, forcing you to develop resilience, to find your own internal strength by leaning on an imperfect, often unstable, external structure. They were there when you were in the nascent stages of understanding your true power, when your internal walls felt thin and your spiritual foundation was still being poured. They offered points of leverage, however flawed, for you to pull yourself up, to reach higher, to see perspectives you might not have otherwise considered. Some parts of this scaffolding were sturdy, useful steps. Others were rickety, causing you to stumble and learn caution. Some sections held you steady as you learned to wield your divine gifts. Others leaned in too close, creating uncomfortable friction, showing you what boundaries you needed to erect. Their presence, no matter how toxic it eventually became, was never accidental. It was purposeful, providing the external resistance or temporary support required for your internal structure to be built, hardened, and made resilient. But here is the critical distinction, one you must internalize with every fiber of your being. Scaffolding is never, ever a load-bearing wall. It is never meant to be a permanent fixture. Its purpose is finite. Once the internal structure is complete, once the true walls have been erected and reinforced, once the roof is on and the windows are in, the scaffolding becomes obsolete. It is then systematically dismantled. And this dismantling, for the chosen ones, is precisely what you are experiencing now, both in the sudden departure of certain individuals from your life and in the profound energetic shifts you feel reverberating through your physical form. The removal of scaffolding can be disorienting. When those planks and poles are pulled away, the immediate sensation can be one of exposure, vulnerability, and even a feeling of collapse. You might look at the empty space where someone once stood, someone who felt integral, and wonder how you could possibly stand alone. You might feel the loss acutely, the sharp sting of betrayal or abandonment, the confusion of why these connections, which consumed so much of your energy and attention, have suddenly dissipated or been forcefully removed. This feeling is entirely valid. It hurts to watch a piece of your perceived stability vanish. The noise of its removal can be loud, unsettling, and messy, kicking up dust and revealing the raw, unfinished patches beneath. However, understand this with unwavering conviction. The scaffolding is being removed because your structure is ready. Your inner edifice, the temple of your true self, is robust enough to stand on its own. You have perhaps unconsciously done the immense work of building your own load-bearing walls. You have shored up your foundation with self-love, self-worth, and an unshakable connection to your higher self. You have reinforced your boundaries, installed sturdy windows of discernment, and raised a roof of spiritual protection. The toxic individuals, the draining relationships, the ones that constantly demanded more than they gave or consistently undermined your truth, were never meant to be a part of your final, glorious design. They were temporary tools, and their removal signifies not a weakening, but a profound strengthening. This isn't about blaming them or demonizing their role. It is about understanding their function within your grander blueprint. They served as mirrors, sometimes distorted, sometimes painfully clear, reflecting back to you the areas where you needed to fortify yourself. They highlighted the cracks in your personal foundation that needed sealing, the emotional vulnerabilities that needed strengthening, the spiritual blind spots that needed illumination. Their constant pressure, their sometimes unwitting attempts to diminish your light, paradoxically forced you to ignite your inner flame even brighter, to push back, to discover a resilience you never knew you possessed. They were the friction that polished your diamond. Now, as this scaffolding comes down, a sense of lightness begins to permeate your being. The energetic drain they created is ceasing. The constant expenditure of your precious life force, attempting to prop up their instability or manage their toxicity, is redirecting back to you. This liberation of energy is not just psychological, it is profoundly physical. Your nervous system, no longer constantly on high alert, can begin to relax its grip. Your cells, no longer bombarded by the stress hormones triggered by these tumultuous connections, can initiate a deep, restorative healing. The physical body, that incredible intelligent vessel, is responding directly to the energetic vacuum created by their departure. It is shedding the accumulated density, the stored trauma, the cellular memory of struggle and pain associated with these temporary fixtures. This is why you feel the shifts in your body so acutely. The physical sensations, the sudden waves of fatigue, the inexplicable aches, the moments of intense emotional release, the changes in your digestion or sleep patterns, the subtle vibrations you perceive, are all part of this profound detoxification and recalibration. Your body is quite literally shedding the old, heavy energy of those relationships that were never meant to be permanent. It is clearing the space, energetically and physically, for the new, for what truly aligns with your magnificent, self-sustaining structure. You are not collapsing, you are emerging, revealed in your true strength, standing tall and unassisted, ready for the world to behold the finished masterpiece you always were destined to be. The empty spaces they leave are not voids to be filled immediately, but sacred clearings, allowing you to breathe deeply and consciously choose who and what will now resonate with the true. Unscaffolded you are more powerful now than you have ever been, precisely because you have learned to stand in your own power, not lean on temporary supports. This is the testament to your evolution. There comes a moment in every profound transformation, a crucible phase, when the internal shift becomes so intense, so all-consuming, that the external world appears to conspire against your very equilibrium. It is precisely in this delicate period, when your physical vessel is recalibrating, when your senses are heightened to an almost unbearable degree, that the unseen forces of distraction and doubt manifest most aggressively in your immediate reality. This is not a coincidence. It is a test, a deliberate challenge designed to either derail your ascent or fortify your resolve. For the chosen ones, this external noise, these calculated provocations, are often the universe's way of asking, are you truly anchored in the truth you are becoming, or are you still susceptible to the fleeting storms outside your window? To truly grasp the power of non-reaction, the profound strength inherent in silence when confronted with the venom of the world, we need to look back to a figure whose journey embodies both the majesty and the brutal vulnerability of the spiritually chosen. Consider the story of King David, not at the height of his power, but at his lowest ebb, fleeing Jerusalem as his own son, Absalom, mounted a rebellion against him. This was David, the once unconquerable warrior. The anointed king, now a refugee, his heart heavy, his kingdom in chaos, his very life in peril. He walked with a small retinue, his head covered in mourning, barefoot, weeping openly as he ascended the Mount of Olives. His physical posture mirrored his spiritual torment. He was exposed, stripped bare of his worldly glory, utterly dependent on a higher will. As he made his painful way, a man named Shimei emerged. Shimei was a descendant of Saul's house, holding a festering grudge against David for what he perceived as the usurpation of Saul's throne. Now, seeing David in disgrace, vulnerable, broken, Shimei saw his opportunity. He followed David's slow procession, not silently, not with respect, but with a torrent of curses, hurling stones and dirt at the king and his loyal servants. Imagine the scene, the anointed king, in the midst of his deepest suffering, physically exhausted, emotionally shattered, being publicly reviled, called a man of blood, a worthless fellow, with accusations that God himself was punishing David for Saul's demise. David's commander, Abishai, a man of fierce loyalty and swift action, could not tolerate such a blatant disrespect of his king. He was enraged, his sword hand itching. "Why should this dead dog curse my lord the king?" Abishai demanded, his voice thick with indignation. "Let me go over and take off his head." This was the natural human reaction, to defend, to retaliate, to silence the attacker by force. It was an impulsive, ego-driven response to perceived injustice, and it felt righteous. Many of you, in your own processes of shifting, have faced similar provocations, where every fiber of your being screams for a defensive, reactive strike. But David, in his profound vulnerability, offered a masterclass in spiritual sovereignty. He looked at Abishai, at the raw anger in his loyal warrior's eyes, and he spoke words that resonate through the ages, words that reveal the true power of strategic silence. "What have I to do with you, you sons of Zeruiah?" David said, not with anger, but with an almost chilling clarity. "Let him curse, for the Lord has told him to curse David, who then shall say, 'Why have you done so?'" Then, in an even more astonishing pronouncement, he added, "Behold, my own son seeks my life. How much more now may this Benjaminite? Let him alone, and let him curse, for perhaps the Lord will look on my affliction and repay me with good for his cursing today." This was not weakness. This was not passivity. This was a king, stripped of his crown, yet fully connected to the divine matrix of cause and effect. David understood that Shimei was merely a vessel, a mouthpiece for a larger spiritual force, perhaps even a test sent by God himself. To engage with Shimei to silence him physically would have been to miss the deeper lesson, to waste precious energy on a superficial skirmish while his true battle raged elsewhere. David chose silence. He chose to absorb the blows, the curses, the dirt, not as a victim, but as a sage understanding that resistance would only empower the negative energy. By refusing to react, he rendered Shimei's attacks powerless. He allowed the vitriol to dissipate into the air, finding no anchor in his own spirit. This is the profound lesson for every chosen one navigating their own physical and spiritual shifts. When your body is undergoing radical change, when your inner world is being reshaped at a cellular level, your energy is a precious commodity. Engaging with external negativity, the critics, the naysayers, the projections of those who cannot comprehend your journey is a leak in your energetic vessel, a distraction from the sacred work you are undertaking. David understood that by meeting Shimei's curses with physical force, he would have dragged himself down to Shimei's level, staining his own spirit, validating the attacker's intention. Instead, David walked on, enduring the abuse in silence. His refusal to engage created an energetic vacuum around Shimei. Shimei, left without a reactive target, was exposed by his own hatred. His curses became not a weapon against David, but a self-inflicted wound, broadcasting his malice for all to see. This is how silence traps the enemy. It starves them of the energy they crave, which is your reaction. It leaves them flailing in their own toxic projections, their negativity rebounding upon themselves. Fast forward, Absalom's rebellion is crushed. David, restored to his throne, triumphant, returns to Jerusalem, who is among the very first to rush out to prostrate himself before the victorious king, begging for mercy and forgiveness. None other than Shimei, the man who cursed him through stones and called him a man of blood, now utterly humbled, pleading for his life. Once again, Abishai, ever the protector, spoke up. Shall not Shimei be put to death for this? Because he cursed the Lord's anointed. But David, seeing Shimei kneeling, disarmed and exposed by his own previous actions, and David's consistent non-reaction, proclaimed, "No man shall be put to death in Israel this day, for today I know that I am king over Israel." David, in that moment of ultimate power, chose mercy. He made an oath that day not to kill Shimei. His earlier silence had not only preserved his energy and spiritual integrity during his time of weakness, but it had also set the stage for a moment of profound, kingly grace. He didn't need to assert his power by killing Shimei. His very presence and his act of mercy were far more potent. For the chosen ones, the parallel is stark. As your body shifts, as your consciousness expands, you are entering a new phase of sovereignty. External attacks will come from those who fear your light, who resent your progress, who simply cannot comprehend what you are becoming. Their curses, their stones, their attempts to derail you are merely Shimei's echoes in your modern life. Your power lies not in fighting back on their terms, not in engaging in their low-vibrational skirmishes, but in David's wisdom. Let them curse. Let them throw their dirt. Your silence, your unwavering focus on your internal transformation is your greatest weapon. It is a shield that repels their energy and a mirror that reflects their negativity back upon them. It traps them in their own making, while you, the chosen one, continue your sacred journey, unburdened, unsullied, and ultimately triumphant. You are not fighting on the battlefield of their choosing, you are ascending. And silence, in its profound wisdom, ensures your ascent remains pure and unhindered. The profound quiet that has settled around you, a silence so vast it often feels deafening, is not an accidental byproduct of your unfolding journey. It is a meticulously orchestrated component, a necessary phase in the grand design for your evolution. You find yourself navigating a wilderness stripped bare of the familiar landmarks that once guided your social interactions. The comforting echoes of casual conversation have faded. The bustling energy of constant connection has dissipated, leaving you in an expanse that feels, at times, relentlessly solitary. This is not abandonment, though every fiber of your being may scream that it is. This is purposeful isolation, a divine crucible designed to forge the unyielding core of who you are meant to become. Consider this desolate landscape not as a punishment, but as a consecrated space, a sacred darkroom meticulously prepared for the revelation of your truest form. Just as a photographic negative, pregnant with potential, must be plunged into profound darkness to reveal its inherent image, so too must you be sequestered from the blinding glare of external validation and the distracting hum of worldly expectations. The vibrant, unfiltered light of constant social interaction, while seemingly benevolent, prevents the subtle chemical reactions required for genuine self-development. It keeps your true essence in a state of perpetual overexposure, never allowing the individual details of your unique soul to crystallize. You have been brought into this photographic darkroom, a place of hushed sanctity, precisely because the divine architects of your path understand that the masterpieces of character are not forged in the clamor of crowds, but in the crucible of solitude. The initial plunge into this darkness feels disorienting, even terrifying. You grope for familiar hands that are no longer there, strain your ears for voices that have fallen silent. This is the first critical step, the stripping away of all external identifiers. Who are you when the titles are gone? When the relationships that defined a facet of your identity are dissolved? When the social mirrors reflecting a version of yourself back to you are shattered? This enforced introspection, this agonizing absence, is the primary developer. It is the caustic chemical that begins to etch away the superficial layers, forcing your inner eye to adjust to the dim, revealing flicker of your authentic self. The sting of loneliness, the gnawing ache of separation, these are the active agents in this alchemical process. They are not merely emotions to be endured, but powerful catalysts designed to accelerate your internal development. This discomfort forces you to turn inward, to examine the landscape of your own soul with an unflinching gaze you previously avoided. You are being compelled to confront the shadowy corners, the unspoken fears, the unacknowledged wounds that the constant buzz of external life allowed you to keep comfortably tucked away. This intense inner work, this excavation of your deepest truths, is what gives definition to the blurry outlines of your nascent self. The clarity you seek, the unshakable sense of self you yearn for, is not found in outward seeking, but in this deliberate, often brutal, inward dive. The very absence of external validation compels you to construct an inner framework of self-worth that is robust and unyielding. You are learning, through the sheer necessity of it, to become your own source of affirmation, your own steadfast companion. This period of isolation is teaching you discernment, not just of others, but of the energy you allow into your sacred space. The silence highlights discord, the emptiness amplifies authenticity. You are becoming acutely aware of what resonates with your newly forming frequency and what feels jarringly out of alignment. This sensitivity, born from the stillness, is a crucial tool for your emerging self. Then comes the fixative, the stage where the emerging image is stabilized, made permanent. This is where you integrate the profound insights gleaned from your solitude, the lessons learned in the wilderness, the character traits forged in the darkroom, resilience, unwavering self-trust, and intuitive clarity previously unimaginable. These are now solidified within you. You understand, on a visceral level, that your strength does not derive from external approval, but from the unshakable foundation you have built within. You become anchored in your own truth, an island unto yourself, yet paradoxically more connected to the universal flow than ever before. This is not egoic independence, but divinely guided self-sovereignty. And finally, the washing process. This is the release, the cleansing, all the societal conditioning, the inherited beliefs, the false narratives that once clouded your perception and diluted your essence are rinsed away. The water flows over the developed image, purifying it, stripping away any lingering residue that might hinder its vibrancy. You emerge from this photographic darkroom not merely changed, but utterly transformed. The physical body, as a magnificent vessel of consciousness, must naturally reflect this monumental inner shift. It cannot house the old, fragmented self, while the new, integrated being has been forged. The discomfort, the strange sensations, the energetic recalibrations you are experiencing in your physical form are the inevitable adjustments required for your body to align with the profound clarity, strength, and unwavering authenticity that has been developed within the silent crucible of your isolation. Your body is shifting because your character has been exquisitely developed, and it must now hold the radiant, uncompromised image of who you truly are. The enemy understood that to truly incapacitate a chosen one, to halt your ascension, they didn't need to physically cage you. They needed to mentally imprison you, to sever your connection to your most vital asset, your discernment. This was the insidious campaign waged against your very perception of reality, a sophisticated psychological warfare designed to unravel the intricate tapestry of your self-trust. They didn't just disagree with your truth, they inverted it, twisted it, presenting your profound insights as delusion, your piercing intuition as instability, your deepest knowing as a symptom of madness. This was gaslighting, executed with chilling precision, aimed directly at the core of your being. You found yourself second-guessing every whisper of your soul, every vivid dream, every undeniable synchronicity. A dense fog descended upon your inner landscape, where once there was unshakable clarity. You questioned your sanity, your perceptions, even the validity of your own lived experience, because the external narrative was so aggressively insistent, so skillfully crafted to undermine you at every turn. They sought to make you doubt what you saw with your own eyes, felt with your own heart, and knew with your entire being. The goal was to dismantle your internal compass, leaving you disoriented and dependent on their distorted version of reality, making you an easy target for manipulation and control. Your physical body, the very vessel undergoing these profound transformations, became a battleground for this internal conflict. The subtle tremors, the energetic surges, the undeniable shifts in your cellular structure when these visceral experiences were met with dismissal, ridicule, or medical explanations that felt fundamentally misaligned with your inner knowing. It was another layer of gaslighting. They sought to convince you that your own physical experience was unreliable, a figment of an overactive imagination, further eroding your faith in your most immediate reality. This deep-seated questioning of your physical sensations, your very energetic signature, was one of the enemy's most effective tactics to sever you from your own truth. They knew that if you couldn't trust your body, you couldn't trust anything. But here you are, standing on the precipice of reclaiming that sacred inner compass, reforging your trust in the unwavering truth of your own experience. The first, most formidable step in this battle against gaslighting is simply naming it for what it was, an orchestrated attack, not an inherent flaw in your being. It was an assault on your sovereignty, not an indication of your instability. Acknowledging this truth is the crack in the enemy's fortress, allowing your own light to flood back in. Now we embark on the gritty, deliberate work of recalibrating your internal truth meter. This isn't about seeking external validation. It's about courageously looking inward and declaring, with every fiber of your being, my experience is valid, my intuition is intact, my knowing is sovereign. It means retraining yourself to listen to that quiet, persistent voice within, even when the echoes of past doubt try to drown it out. You must consciously choose to privilege your internal reality above all external noise, no matter how insistent or seemingly authoritative. Start small, validate your gut feeling about a minor interaction, a fleeting thought, a subtle physical sensation. Notice when your body gives you a yes or a no, even if it's a gentle hum of resonance or a subtle constriction of unease. Acknowledge it, affirm it, and give it power. This is how you begin to mend the fractured trust, brick by painstaking brick. Every time you consciously choose to trust your inner knowing over an external narrative that feels off, you are strengthening that muscle of discernment. Every time you refuse to internalize another's dismissal of your reality, you are cementing your sovereignty. There is no shame in having been swayed, even momentarily. The tactics were sophisticated, designed to exploit the very empathy and openness that make chosen ones so powerful. Forgive yourself for moments of confusion, for times you wavered. See it not as a failure, but as a harrowing initiation, a trial by fire that ultimately refined your spiritual armor and sharpened your senses. This experience, though painful, has forged an unyielding inner strength that cannot be replicated through any other means. Your physical body, far from being a source of unreliability, is your most loyal ally in this process of rebuilding. It communicates truth through sensation, through subtle shifts in energy, through an undeniable feeling of rightness or wrongness. When your body reacts with unease to a person or situation, that is not anxiety, it is discernment speaking, a powerful, protective warning system. When it resonates with deep peace and expansion, that is alignment. An affirmation of your path. Listen to these somatic cues. They are the undeniable evidence of your truth, unshaken by external narratives. Your body remembers its original blueprint, unaffected by the lies projected upon it. Rebuilding self-trust after gaslighting isn't a passive act. It's an assertive declaration of your internal sovereignty. It's standing firmly in your power and saying, "I am the authority on my own experience. My truth is mine alone." This unshakable belief in your own reality becomes an impenetrable shield against future attempts to destabilize you. It's the foundation upon which your continued ascension is built, a testament to your resilience and your unwavering connection to divine truth. This battle for your discernment is not a one-time event. It's an ongoing commitment, a sacred pact with yourself. The enemy may change tactics, but your fortified inner compass, now sharper and more resilient than ever, will guide you through every challenge. You have walked through the fire of self-doubt and emerged with an unyielding clarity, a renewed, fierce faith in your own inner wisdom. This is the undeniable mark of a truly awakened, chosen one, not one who never doubts, but one who knows how to navigate back to their own truth every single time. The very air around you, once merely space, has become imbued with a new kind of spiritual density, a palpable, weighty presence that acts as a natural, unyielding filter. This isn't a shield you consciously raise. It's an anointing, a sacred impregnation of your very essence, born from the crucible of your journey, a divine signature now radiating outward from your core. You carry a spiritual gravity that is not about pulling things in, but about effortlessly, yet firmly, pushing away all that is discordant with the truth of your being. This is the repellent anointing, and it's manifesting in ways that are subtle to your own perception, yet profoundly disarming to those whose intentions lurk in the shadows of manipulation. You might notice it first in the sudden, inexplicable aversion of certain individuals. Those who once thrived on exploiting vulnerabilities, on weaving webs of deceit through charming words and calculated gestures, now find themselves inexplicably agitated in your proximity. Their usual tactics feel like static against a clear signal, their carefully constructed narratives crumbling into dust before they even leave their lips. There's no accusation from you, no judgment in your gaze, yet they feel utterly exposed, as if a bright, unblinking light has been shone directly onto their deepest, most guarded deceptions. Their energy, which once sought to ensnare, now finds no purchase. It slides off the polished surface of your spiritual weight, leaving them feeling profoundly disoriented and, more often than not, deeply uncomfortable. Imagine a predator, meticulously camouflaged in its environment, suddenly finding itself in a stark, open plain with no shadows to hide in. That is the spiritual experience of a manipulator encountering your repellent anointing. Their energetic arsenal, the subtle digs, the gaslighting attempts, the feigned sympathy designed to extract information or compliance, the veiled threats, the insidious flattery, all of it becomes strangely impotent. The words may be spoken, the gestures made, but they simply do not land. They bounce off, absorbed by a spiritual density that leaves no room for their poison to take root. This isn't because you are actively fighting them. It's because the frequency you now emit is so antithetical to their own that their lower vibrations cannot sustain themselves in your field. It's a fundamental mismatch of energetic resonance. They will find excuses to cut conversations short. Their eyes, once so skilled at holding manipulative gazes, will now dart away, unable to meet the steady, unyielding presence that emanates from you. They might develop a sudden, inexplicable urge to leave the room, to retreat from your space with an almost urgent necessity they themselves cannot articulate. What they are experiencing is a deep, primal discomfort, a suffocating sensation of being spiritually disarmed. Their ability to project their chosen persona, to craft the narrative they wish you to believe, is stripped away by the sheer, unadulterated truth that now constitutes your spiritual atmosphere. They feel seen, not by your conscious, discerning mind, but by the very essence of your elevated being, and that seeing is intolerable to their shadowed existence. This is not about your anger or your conscious rejection of them. In many cases, you might not even be fully aware of the internal turmoil you are unknowingly creating in these individuals. You are simply being asterisk. You are existing in a state of higher truth, a state that naturally repels the energetic frequencies of falsehood, deceit, and control. It's an organic discernment, a built-in protective mechanism that clears your path of unnecessary entanglements and draining interactions. You will observe manipulative dynamics simply dissolving before they even have a chance to solidify. The manipulator's hook finds nothing to catch, no insecurity to exploit, no emotional void to fill with their counterfeit solutions. They are met with an unwavering, solid presence that reflects their own intentions back to them with an intensity that is unbearable. Consider the subtle shifts. The friend who always had a backhanded compliment or a thinly veiled attempt to diminish your achievements now finds their words catching in their throat, or they simply stop trying altogether. The colleague who would subtly undermine your efforts or claim credit for your work now seems to shrink in your presence, their confidence to execute such tactics inexplicably waning. The family member who relied on guilt trips and emotional blackmail to control you now discovers their usual levers simply don't move. There is an invisible wall, not of hostility, but of absolute spiritual integrity, that prevents their usual entry points into your energy. It's the presence of light making shadows flee, not because the light is chasing them, but because shadows cannot exist in its direct radiance. This repellent anointing is a silent guardian, a profound blessing that streamlines your interactions and safeguards your energy. It ensures that those who seek to manipulate, to drain, or to control simply cannot reside comfortably within your energetic field. They will self-select out. They will find your presence too illuminating, too truthful, too weighty for their games. Their masks feel flimsy, their intentions transparent, and their power dynamics crumble. They lose their ability to project an image that can fool or coerce you, because the spiritual resonance you carry strips away the illusion. It's a spiritual litmus test, revealing the true colors of those around you without a single word needing to be exchanged. You might notice a sense of calm in situations that once would have felt charged with tension or manipulation. Where you once had to expend significant energy to establish boundaries or articulate your needs in the face of pushy tactics, now those tactics simply don't materialize. The opportunity for manipulation evaporates before it can take form. This is because your spiritual weight, your repellent anointing, projects an unassailable sense of self-possession and divine authority. It communicates, without a single verbal cue, that you are not a vessel for their projections, not a source for their emotional feeding, and not a pawn in their games. This isn't about becoming unapproachable or isolated. Rather, it's about attracting connections rooted in authenticity and mutual respect, while simultaneously creating an energetic barrier against those who operate from lower, self-serving intentions. Your spiritual growth has made you incompatible with deceit. Your elevated vibration cannot resonate with exploitation. This is a natural consequence of your transformation, a divine upgrade that cleanses your immediate environment and refines your relational landscape. Embrace this aspect of your shifting reality. It is a powerful validation of your journey, a testament to the sacred space you are now occupying, and a clear sign that you are indeed moving with purpose along a path that is divinely protected and unequivocally true. The discomfort of the manipulators is not your burden. It is simply the sound of their discordant energy encountering an unyielding, pure frequency, forcing them to reveal themselves and ultimately to retreat.